walk around today. We're going to start off with the initial approach. We're going to look underneath the vehicle for any puddles, engine oil, transmission oil, hydraulic fluid, brake fluid, power steering fluid, and radiator fluid. Puddles can indicate a leak, so we want to make sure that there is no puddles. We're also going to check to see if the vehicle is leaning to one side or the other, which could indicate a flat tire, a broken, loose, or missing leaf spring, or a failed shock absorber. From there, we're going to check the front of the vehicle and the back of the vehicle all the way to the trailer. We're looking for any obstructions, cars, anything that we can possibly hit, low-hanging tree limbs, people, bicyclists, anything. We want to make sure we don't hit anything on our way out. From there, we're going to start at the top of the vehicle. We're going to check our antenna to make sure it's securely mounted, no visible damage. I'm going to check my horns to make sure that they're securely mounted, no visible damage. I'm going to make sure that they're operating properly. My running lights, I'm going to check my running lights to make sure they're clean, that they operate properly, and that they're securely mounted. From there, I'm going to check my windshield to make sure it's clean, that there's no cracks, no visible damage. Make sure there's no illegally placed stickers that can obstruct my vision. I'm also going to check my windshield wipers to make sure that they operate properly. I'm checking the windshield wiper blades to make sure they're not cracked or broken, that they're going to function properly. I'm checking the front of the hood for any visible damage. When I'm checking for visible damage, if there is visible damage, I'm just going to make sure to note it on my trip ticket. I'm checking my grab handle so that I can pull to make sure that it's securely fastened, so that I can pull my hood forward when I go to do the under the hood inspection. I'm going to start off at this line, and this is my reminder, my indicator to where I can end at this line. So when I walk all the way around, this is my starting point and my finish point. I'm going to check my hood latches to make sure they're securely fastened. There is no visible damage. Checking my turn signals to make sure they're clean, operating correctly, securely fastened, no visible damage. I'm going to check my headlights to make sure they're adjusted properly, that they operate properly, that they're clean. From there, I'm checking my bumper. I'm checking my bumper from here all the way to the side to make sure that there is no visible damage. It's securely mounted. It's not going to fall off, create a hazard for anybody. I'm going to check my license plate frame to make sure, or my license plate. I'm going to make sure that it is clean and visible, securely mounted. I'm checking my grill. I'm looking for any visible damage. I'm also looking for obstructions, anything road debris that I could have picked up that can restrict airflow going to the radiator. From there, again, visible damage. Making sure my bumper is securely attached to my front headlight. I'm going to make sure that it's adjusted properly, and that it's clean, that it works properly. Again, my turn signal, I'm going to make sure that it is securely mounted and that it operates properly and that it's clean and visible. From there, I'm going to check my hood latch. Check my hood latch to make sure that it's securely mounted, there is no visible damage, and that it operates properly. Go ahead and tilt the hood open so that we can do the brake inspection on this side real quick. And that's why it's important to go ahead and pin your wheel to the left. On this vehicle, we're going to check the brake canister to make sure that it's securely mounted. There is no visible damage. I'm checking the air hoses leading to and from the brake canister to make sure they're not pinched, they're not worn, and I'm also listening for leaks. I'm going to check my slack adjuster. Pull back on the slack adjuster. I could check the slack adjuster by putting a screwdriver in and pulling back. Also on some, you could use a 9/16 wrench to pull back, pull back to make sure that there's no more than 1 inch play. From there, I'm going to check the inside of my rim for any debris. I'm looking for any cracks, any welds, anything that's an indicator that my rim's going to fail. I'm checking my brake pads and brake linings on the inside. I'm checking for any broken, loose, or missing parts on the brake pads or brake linings. I'm also checking for grease, oil. The other thing that I'm looking at my brake pads and linings is making sure that they're, the brake pads are no more than a 1/4 inch worn. A 1/4 inch is the minimum they can be. I'm checking the walls of my tires, inside and out, for any cuts, bubbles, gouges, any indicators that the inside or the outside tire can fail. I'm checking the front tires for flat, even tread wear at a minimum of 430 seconds. The fronts cannot be recaps. From there, I'm going to check my rim for any cracks, welds, any holes that aren't intentionally there. I'm checking my lug nuts for shiny threads or for rust rings, which is an indicator of a loose lug nut. I'm checking my hub oil seal, making sure that it's at the correct operating level and that it is not leaking. I'm also checking my valve stem to make sure that the valve stem's in good condition. It's not visibly damaged. Make sure there's a cap on it to prevent debris from going into the valve stem. And I'm also checking my tire air pressure. There's only 2 acceptable methods of checking tire air pressure. That's with a tire thumper or an air pressure gauge. Kicking and punching are not acceptable methods. Moving along, I'm checking my mirror to make sure it's securely fastened. There is no visible damage. I'm making sure it's correctly adjusted, making sure that it's clean, and there's no stickers on it that are going to obstruct my vision. Checking my door for any visible damage. Checking my door latch to make sure that my door opens and closes. This truck right here, I'm checking my batteries. I'm checking all connections, all wires leading to and from my batteries. I'm checking the connections for corrosion. Making sure that they're all securely fastened, the wires are in good condition. My steps should be clean of debris, securely mounted. We don't want anything that's gonna cause us to slip as we enter the truck. My air tanks, I'm making sure they're securely fastened. There is no visible damage. I'm checking all air hoses leading to and from the air tanks, and I'm listening for leaks. I'm making sure those hoses aren't pinched or cut or any rough spots or anything like that. On this truck here, we're going to go ahead and check our running board on top to make sure, even though it's visibly damaged, we're going to note it, but we're going to make sure that it's not going to fall off, create a hazard for anybody. Make sure it's securely attached. I'm checking the whole body of the truck, checking my step on the dump to make sure that it's clean. I'm going to check my running lights to make sure that they're clean, securely fastened, and that they operate properly. My reflectors should be clean and mounted properly. Here is my hydraulic reservoir for my dump truck. We're going to check to make sure that there's no visible damage. We're also making sure that there's no leaks. We're checking hoses leading to and from the hydraulic reservoir. I'm going to go continue to check my frame. I'm looking for any illegal welds, rust spots that could indicate cracks. Make sure there's no debris caught up in there. I'm also, while I'm down there, going to check my drive shaft to make sure that there's no road debris down there, or that there is that is securely mounted and the universals are greased. I'm also going to check my cargo hooks to make sure they're securely mounted. I'm going to check my reflectors, my lights all the way down, my cargo hooks all the way down. I don't know if I mentioned mud flap to make sure that it's in place, securely fastened. From there, I'm going to go ahead and do this all general so I don't spend too much time on the wheels. I'm going to check my leaf springs for any broken, loose, or missing leaf springs. I'm going to check my U-bolts to make sure there's no broken, loose, or missing U-bolts. I'm checking my axle to make sure that it's there's no road debris, to make sure that it's straight, there's no excess grease or anything like that. From there, I'm going to check, we'll see it better from right here. We're going to check our brake canister. We're checking all hoses leading to and from the brake canister. We're making sure that the brake canister is securely mounted. There is no visible damage. I'm going to go ahead and check the slack adjuster. There should not be more than 1 inch play on the slack adjuster. From there, I'm going to check the brake pads and the brake linings.
We're at 10 minutes.
Okay, we'll start with the brakes right afterwards.